wir haben eine gewisse Schwierigkeit noch zu erklären, nämlich was Pei Wang macht. Ich sage gleich, wer er ist, aber was er macht, ist nicht einfach zu verstehen. Und wir haben hier eine Zweiteilung im Publikum. Es sind Leute hier, die fiebern darauf, mit ihm zu diskutieren und wirklich dem Motor unter der Motorhaube auf Nut und Bolt zu gucken. Und das können wir natürlich nicht den anderen allen zumuten, weil das würde sie langweilen. Und deshalb haben wir gesagt, die Möglichkeit dazu gibt es mit ihm, später in der Formel-1-Garage, in der Box, wirklich den Motor anzugucken und er erklärt das alles. Und wir machen diesen Teil jetzt eher im allgemeinverständlichen Bereich. Und dazu muss man Folgendes sagen. Der Pei Wang ist einer der führenden Leute in der AI überhaupt und oberhalb von der allgemeinen künstlichen Intelligenz gibt es noch eine Spezialklasse, die heißt Artificial General Intelligence. Und wie ist der dazugekommen? Ich bin zunächst mal zu ihm gekommen, indem er als Freund von Fan Jigu, der hat mich auf ihn aufmerksam gemacht, ein Editor im wahrscheinlich größten KI-Kanal in China, in WeChat Fanpu, der Zuständige ist für eine bestimmte Spezialität da drin, wie der Fanji auch für den Neuroscience-Teil. Und im Rahmen des Schriftwechsels, der in dem Buch abgelegt ist, hat er mich auf ihn aufmerksam gemacht. Ich muss gestehen, dass ich ihn am Anfang nicht verstanden habe, sondern nur Teile davon, aber mir ist aufgefallen, irgendwas ist an dem dran. Und das hat dann dazu geführt, dass er, als es fertig war, unser Buch auch in seinem KI-Kanal besprochen hat. Die Qualifikation, die er dazu hat, rührt daher, er hat vor vielen Jahren mal ein Ihnen allen sehr gut bekanntes Buch ins Chinesische übersetzt. Und zwar ist das Gödel-Escher-Bach von Hofstadter. Und das hat dem Hofstadter so imponiert, dass er ihn eingeladen hat, nach USA zu kommen und sein Assistent zu werden. Und der ist auch sein Doktorvater und der hat diese Theorie dort entwickelt. Ich glaube, 95 ist das rausgekommen, wo er diese spezielle Form einer nicht axiomatischen Logik entwickelt hat und ist später dann selber Professor geworden an der Temple University und hat, wie gesagt, einen Kreis von Followern, die, ich will fast sagen, fanatisch sich um dieses Thema kümmert. Alle Großen der Welt kennen ihn, er kennt die auch, aber er hat noch nicht so richtig die Traktion bekommen im Mainstream der Deep Learning, bis vor kurzem, das werden wir gleich sehen, der größte Computerkonzern der Welt, nämlich Cisco im Netzbetriebsbereich, sich entschieden hat, mit seinem System etwas zu machen, was bisher noch keiner hingekriegt hat. Und wir sind zusammengekommen, nachdem er gesagt hat, was die freche Langnase da in dem Buch erzählt, interessiert mich. Und dann hat er mir seinen neuesten Aufsatz geschickt, mit der Bitte verbunden, ich möge mir das mal anschauen. Und aus dieser Diskussion ist eine Sekundärkorrespondenz entstanden, die sich jetzt ähnlich zu der entwickelt, die ich mit dem Fan Jigu hatte. Und er war auch so freundlich, dann mir zuzusagen, wenn wir das hier in Europa machen, hätte ich ihn gerne mit dabei. War jetzt etwas lang, ich bitte um Nachsicht für die Länge, aber es ist auch ein sehr kompliziertes Leben, was er geführt hat.
So, before we start into the talk, we will see what others are saying about NARS and how they are using it. So, this is a talk by Hugo Latapie from Cisco.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for attending the session. My apologies that I could not be there in person, but looking at the conference proceedings, I could see that it's been a fantastic session so far. I want to talk a little bit about some of the collaboration that we've had with many of you, where we have a neurosymbolic system actually functioning and in production, leveraging some of the AGI elements that you've been talking about these last few days. Here you see some of the university open research that we've been funding. You should see some familiar names there. Ben is there, Pei's team. Kristen is coming online pretty soon, so that's actually all been approved. So what we're doing here is we are looking for strategic, developments in the in the AGI community that could be applied to neurosymbolic reasoning systems. But we're also looking for things that we could do in the near term as well. So I want to talk about some of the applications, how this can be used today to help society, and to help solve many of the big problems that we're seeing in the world. So this is just giving you a basic idea of some of the work that's been going on so far. This paper, I don't know if any of you attended the NARS workshop, but when we'll be showing some examples of neurosymbolic visual reasoning. You want to learn more details about some of that implementation. We haven't published with Singularity at this point because a lot of that work is currently, it's not funded through university research. It's basically more of a commercial agreement. But the work we do with NARS currently is primarily open. So you can see, if you want to learn more about some of these things that we've been doing, you could look at this paper as well. It covers some of the interesting characteristics of that. If you played at all with Open NARS, you can see the visualization of the concept space as the tracklet information of the objects that are being tracked from the deep learning system and the Kalman filter and Hungarian algorithm are fitting into the conceptual space. And then, of course, on the output, you're going to have a dashboard where you get things, okay, what's important coming out of this case, so potential accidents, jaywalking, that sort of thing. So that gives you a basic idea of the kind of neurosymbolic system that we're talking about.
Okay, und damit sind wir bei Pei Wang. Pei, maybe you can say just 2 sentences to what we have just seen there from Cisco, how they use the system, and then let's start into your talk.
Okay, first, thank you everyone for coming. Thanks for the organizer for giving me this great opportunity to talk about my research here. What you have seen is a recent project that we have been doing with Cisco, which is ongoing. The basic idea is to use a reasoning system we have developed together with their deep learning technique, so to develop some application for there's a smart city situation. So the system should be able to do some reasoning based on the material and make some prediction and hopefully take some important actions to improve the situation in traffic. That's basically it.
Also er sagt, dass an der Stelle Cisco seinen NARS-Ansatz kombiniert hat mit tiefen neuronalen Modellen, um oberhalb von den neuronalen Modellen nochmal eine Reasoning Engine zu haben, mit der logische Schlussfolgerungen möglich sind, spezielle logische Schlussfolgerungen, und das wird im Smart City-Bereich eingesetzt, um Verkehrsüberwachung zu machen.
Prädiktiv, nicht nur Voraussage.
Ja, auch prädiktiv.
So we can start with a presentation I prepared because the topic is quite big. So I will have to move very fast and only give you some basic idea. If anyone want to know the detail, we should be able to find other opportunity. So first I want to start with my working definition of intelligence, which is not exactly the same with what the AI community currently is taking as intelligence. As you can see, to me, intelligence is the capability for a system to adapt to its environment while working with insufficient knowledge and resources. So you'll see that in this definition, there are 2 key points. The first one is insufficient knowledge and resource, which also in the literature is sometimes just called AIKR principle. What it means, it sounds actually pretty simple. It just say every intelligent system only have finite processing power, say memory, space, number of processors, speed of processor, and so on. They're all finite. But on the other hand, it have to work in real time. By real time, it means new task may show up at any moment. And also, every task actually have some time requirements associated with it. So it need to be finished at a certain moment. And then the system need to be open to new task in the sense that there may be something you don't know how to solve, but you have to face such a problem. And also, sometimes your new experience challenge your previous beliefs. Okay, you have to allow this kind of thing from happening. And how to deal with it? Well, this is where the concept of adaptation fit into the picture. In this context, adaptation, of course, may have different interpretation. In this context, that basically means two things. One is we don't know the future. You have to use the past to predict the future, even you know the past and future are not exactly the same. Second, you never have enough resources, especially you never have enough time. So you will have to distribute or allocate your available time according to the demand among your tasks. So how to deal with that? You also need to adapt in the sense that you learn from your past.
Zusammengefasst muss ein System, welches intelligent ist, in seiner Definition sich anpassen können an immer neue Situationen, kann dabei aber immer nur aus der Vergangenheit lernen, um die Zukunft vorherzusagen und muss aber gleichzeitig auch mit begrenztem Wissen und begrenzten Ressourcen umgehen können. Und dadurch ergibt sich ein großer Unterschied zu anderen AGI-Systemen, wie zum Beispiel AIXI, welches davon ausgeht, dass unbegrenzte Ressourcen zur Verfügung stehen und nur darüber kann dann theoretisch eine Optimalität in den Entscheidungen erreicht werden.
Yeah, what is the key difference between this opinion and the mainstream AI conception about intelligence? You can see that the left picture is more like what you can find in many textbooks about artificial intelligence. They define artificial intelligence as the product or research about to make a computer to solve a problem which previously can only be solved by the human mind. In that sense, you can see that there is a territory of problems which can be solved by the human brain. And also there is another group of problems that can be solved by computer. Then in a sense, AI is the overlapping part. Okay, what you can do can solve only by the brain, now can also be solved by computer. That's what AI is about. My picture is more the one on the right, which you see intelligence and computation or traditional computer system as completely different from each other, which directly come from my previous working definition of intelligence. In my opinion, if you have sufficient knowledge and resource, you just use computation or traditional computer technology. Why? Because sufficient resource and knowledge in that context means you know the solution and you can put the solution into the computer. But the intelligence, as I define it, is you don't.
Viele Forscher sind der Ansicht, es gibt eine Schnittmenge von der Intelligenz, die mit Computern erreicht werden kann und der menschlichen Intelligenz. Pei ist einer anderen Ansicht. Er sagt, Intelligenz und Rechenkraft sind fundamental verschiedene Dinge. Und wenn wir wüssten, wie wir es berechnen, müssten wir auch nicht mehr intelligent sein.
And this is another way to see the difference between, for example, traditional computer system here I just mark as computation, use that blue line. And the current popular version of AI typically associated with machine learning, which I use that pink line. And then my own approach, which is associated with that green line. So what's the difference? Here, we are talking about not what a system can do, but how is the system's capability change over time. Okay. A traditional computer system can do a lot of things wonderfully, but it does not change by itself over time. You need to change it as a programmer. Okay? On the other hand, machine learning can learn, but it's gradually converge to computation. So it will not, after a while, it will not learn anymore. What I want to do, and some other people also try to do, is build a system which learn in an open-ended manner and in its own lifetime. So it will never stop learning. Yeah, I can understand the question. There is a third line, that's the exponential line, the red line. I put it there because very often I get people ask me my opinion about superintelligence or singularity, which are quite popular concepts, and also very often get associated with concepts of artificial general intelligence or AGI or human level intelligence. My opinion is I don't believe it. I don't believe this right line is possible. Even though I believe AGI can be achieved and we can build a computer which is smart as a human, but maybe not much more smart than a human. I don't believe those. But this is a big topic, so I'm not going to further explain.
Also Pei sagt hier, dass sein Ansatz sich vom klassischen Machine Learning unterscheidet, indem das System nicht nur lernen kann aus Erfahrung, sondern sich auch kontinuierlich anpassen kann und seine eigenen Fähigkeiten, seine Capabilities verändert. Und er glaubt aber nicht an Superintelligenz, also eine Intelligenz, die quasi selbstverstärkend sich selbst verbessern kann. Er denkt, dass ein Computer zwar etwas intelligenter als ein Mensch werden kann, aber nicht viel.
So here is the concept of AGI, which has already been mentioned in the previous discussion. This is a concept I and a whole bunch of other researchers introduced into the community about 10 years ago. The basic idea is to stress intelligence as a whole and say if you want to solve AI, you want to solve this as one problem, not a collection of small problems. And also we stress that all the aspects of intelligence are closely related to each other, so you have to take them into consideration. Because of this opinion, what we have been doing is very different from the mainstream AI. So in this sense, what we think AGI is basically what AI means at the very beginning when the field was formed about 60 years ago. But it's very different from the current AI research because it already turned in the past into a very different direction. So we want to go back, but we have to use a new term because the term AI already have a different meaning.
Also er sagt hier, dass generelle Intelligenz holistisch angegangen werden muss, dass es nicht reicht, Teilprobleme zu lösen und die Lösungen dann wieder zusammenzubringen, sondern dass man ein grundlegendes Verständnis und einen grundlegenden Ansatz braucht und dass dieses Vorgehen aber sehr unterschiedlich ist zu den aktuellen Mainstream-Entwicklungen in der künstlichen Intelligenz und eher wieder zurückgeht zu den Ursprüngen und dem Traum, den man damals verfolgt hat.
So this is an intuitive way to show the difference. The picture on the very left corresponds to kind of like the mainstream opinion. Yeah, we are doing intelligence as a whole, but because this problem is so complicated, we have to do it in a divide and conquer way. So you will do reasoning, I will do learning, he will do natural language processing, she will do robotics, and eventually we will put things together. Okay, that's what I call a hybrid approach. But most of AGI researchers don't believe that this can be done. They are going to take the other two approach. One is to say, even if you're doing a complicated system, you need to have a blueprint first to have a whole picture basically figured out. Then you can say who is doing what. My own approach is the one on the right, which is even more radical, which basically say intelligence is probably just one technology. If you get it right, everything you see in the complexity actually is from different perspective. You see different things. But within the system, there is fundamentally it's only one technique.
Ja, die Bilder sind zum Glück sehr selbsterklärend. Er verfolgt den Ansatz, auf der rechten Seite möchte ein vereinheitlichtes, holistisches System entwickeln.
Sagen Sie doch kurz, das ist das Buch Gödel-Escherbach.
Ja, genau. Das GEB, was man hier sieht, das ist genau Gödel-Escherbach von Douglas Hofstetter, welches von Pei Wang auf Chinesisch übersetzt wurde. Tolles Buch.
Yes, that's exactly where it comes from. Yeah. The system I have been developing over the decades is called the non-axiomatic reasoning system, or NARS, which I only talk about the basic idea. The basic idea I already mentioned. I believe to really solve AGI, actually you only need one core technique. There are also some other technique play a secondary role, of course, but the core is only one thing. So which thing I picked the approach of building a reasoning system with a logic at the center of it. This is not a new idea. Logical AI have been tried by many AI researchers, which all failed. But what makes my approach different, you'll see, is basically what I just said in my working definition of intelligence. That is, traditional reasoning system is basically from truth to truth. But according to my definition of intelligence, you will see that clearly knowledge is insufficient, so everything the system believes can be wrong. And the system never have the time to think about all possibility. So if that's the situation, then there is no such a thing as axiom in the system, which in the sense that the truthfulness cannot be challenged anymore. There is no such a thing. But I believe we can still have a logic working in that environment.
Ein solches holistisches System zu entwickeln, hat Pei Wang einen Mechanismus entwickelt, der alles Denken umfassen soll. Und dieser ist zwar erinnert an klassische Logik und Inferenzregeln, ist aber weiter gefasst als das, um diese Selbstanpassungsfähigkeit zu erreichen, welches die klassischen logikbasierten Systeme nicht mitbringen.
Yeah, just a little bit technical stuff. In ours, everything is represented by a term. A term is just an internal identifier, or you can think it as a name of a concept. Then a statement consists of a subject term and a predicate term related by a copuler, which is just like in Aristotle's logic. And the copuler, the simplest one I'm using is called inheritance, which intuitively represent a specialization, generalization relationship. Like, for example, you can say water is a type of liquid, so there is an inheritance relation from water to liquid. And inheritance has a property of being reflexive and transitive, which is very simple and intuitive.
In NAS ist die grundlegende Einheit ist eine Aussage, und diese Aussage ist ein Tripel, welches Subjekt und Prädikat zusammenbringt mit einer sogenannten Copula, welches sie verbindet. Das kann sein, Wasser ist eine Art Flüssigkeit, und in dem Fall ist eine Art die Koppel, die die beiden verbindet, und in dem Fall ist es auch einmal grafisch angezeigt, und diese grafische Repräsentation werden wir nachher noch ein paar Mal sehen. Bitte? Oh, you should explain the SP.
SP, S is the subject, P is the predicate. It's just two symbols represent this structure. Yeah, this is the key point. I already said there is no absolute truth in this system because everything the system believes can be wrong. But on the other hand, for a reasoning system, you need to have a truth value. So how to solve this issue? Well, I'm using a special semantics, meaning that I gave truth a different interpretation. In this system, true or the degree of truth does not measure the extent to which the statement match the reality or the objective world. Instead, it measures how much evidence the system has with respect to that statement. Okay. So naturally, truth become a matter of degree. Actually, you see in my system, the truth value of a statement, like from S to P, there is an inheritance relation. The truth value actually is represented by two numbers, not just one number, a pair of numbers. The first number is called frequency. The second number is called confidence. Frequency is the proportion of positive evidence among all evidence. So intuitively speaking, you say if I check this relation 100 times, 80% of the time it is correct, the other 20 is not, then it will be 0.8. Just like probability, but it is not probability because probability, you will need to take the limit of this ratio, right? But according to my definition, you don't know the limit. You only know the past history. Okay?
How do you define evidence?
So that's two more slides I already removed because we don't have the time. Yeah, there is a formal definition about evidence in this logic. Yeah.
Sie sind auch zur Formel-1-Garage eingeladen.
And the second measurement is called confidence. That one actually is the most unique mathematical property, one of them in this system. Basically it measures how much you know about this. You can see is the proportion of all amount of evidence, no matter positive or negative, compared to all that amount plus one. What is that plus one? The plus one refers to the next piece, okay? That's first, of course, we need to assume there is a way to measure amount of evidence and to define what is evidence. Let's just take that intuitively as available. So compared to the next testing of this statement, how much you already know. If W equal to 0, then confidence is 0. W is bigger, C will become bigger, but they will never reach 1. Okay, that's the non-axiomatic part.
I think I have to translate a little bit or we will lose part of the public. Es gibt ja andere Ansätze, welche Logik mit Unsicherheit verbinden, wie zum Beispiel die Fuzzy-Logik. Und dort werden den Aussagen auch jeweils eine Konfidenz zugeordnet. Und hier ist es aber anders, hier ist es erweitert, hier wird den Aussagen jeweils ein Frequenzterm und ein Konfidenzterm zugeordnet. Frequenz heißt, wie häufig habe ich diesen Zusammenhang beobachtet oder habe ich eine Evidenz in meinen Daten im Verhältnis zu dieser Aussage und die Konfidenz ist, wie sicher bin ich mir darüber, dass diese Aussage wahr ist. Und bei NAS ist es so, dass es auch innerhalb von den Daten, die man aufgenommen hat, Widersprüche geben kann. Und wie diese Widersprüche dann aufgelöst werden können, wie man Inferenz machen kann, das sehen wir gleich.
So overall, you can see the system's memory in the simplest situation is a conceptual network, where every node in this graph or network is referred to by a term. And every link between two of them correspond to what we call inheritance relation. With a direction. And the number attached to that link correspond to the truth value we just introduced. Also, you can see there are two types of links. There are black ones and red ones. The red ones are what we call a task in the system. That's what the system is working on. There are two types of tasks. It can be a piece of new information that the system needs to try to absorb into the memory. Or it can be a question, like as you can see where the question mark is. The system needs to figure out a relationship or figure out a term that satisfies a certain condition. Okay.
In diesem Konzeptnetzwerk sehen wir zum einen, welche Informationen das System bislang aggregiert hat und aufgenommen hat in dieses Konzeptnetzwerk und zum anderen sehen wir, an was das System gerade arbeitet. Das ist zum einen die Integration von neuen Informationen. Das ist dieser untere rote Pfeil und das ist zum anderen das Abarbeiten von Tasks oder von Fragestellungen. Das ist der obere rote Pfeil und dort wird Inferenz betrieben und es wird sich zum Beispiel die Frage gestellt, inwiefern Robin, ist das eine Art Vogel, ob er wohl schwimmen kann oder nicht.
Yeah, this is also what you have seen in the previous Cisco demo, that dynamic network, that's basically this. Because of the definition, whenever you get new information in, you will have new nodes introduced into the network, as well as new links. And when the system is running, of course, you see the topological structure of the network change over time. Which is another important feature in the system is the meaning of a concept to the system is determined completely by the relationship of that term with the other terms. So meaning is also gradually constructed in the system and also a change over time.
In dem Video von Cisco haben wir gesehen, wie sich dieser Konzeptgraph über die Zeit verändert, wenn neues Wissen dazukommt und integriert wird. Und das ist das Wichtige, dass kein Wissen absolut ist, sondern sich alles verändern kann, wenn nur genügend neue Informationen dazugekommen ist.
And in the system, there is as a reasoning system, there is clearly a whole bunch of inference rules or reasoning rules, which will build a new relation based on available relation. Because of time restriction, I only talk about 2 of them, even though there are a whole bunch of others. One interesting one is induction rule. Anyone who have learned logic even know induction is a very complicated, difficult problem for logic, because induction typically from limited data set try to generalize a conclusion which apply to new situations. As a result, it cannot guarantee the conclusion to be correct. So this is always a problem. But in my system, the problem is resolved given actually the new definition of what truth value measures. So you'll see, I will skip everything, directly go to the concrete example in the bottom right corner. If you know swan is a type of bird, and also you know swan can swim. Here the truth value, I just use the default truth value, which means 100% positive, and to a certain level, so 0.9 is more or less arbitrary, it's just to a certain level. So if that's the given, can you say bird can swim?
Wie in jedem System, welches Inferenz betreibt, gibt es Regeln, mit denen man Schlussfolgerungen treffen kann, so auch hier. Da gibt es eine ganze Reihe, er wird aber nur 2 zeigen. Hier sehen wir die Induktionsregel. Da sage ich jetzt so ein bisschen was zum Hintergrund. Induktion ist eigentlich richtig problematisch, weil Induktion heißt, ich möchte vom Speziellen aufs Generelle schließen. Was man normalerweise sieht in der Logik ist Deduktion. Ja, das ganz klassische Beispiel ist, alle Menschen sind sterblich, Platon ist ein Mensch, deswegen ist Platon sterblich. Hier ist es aber andersrum. Hier ist es, Platon ist ein Mensch, Platon ist sterblich, alle Menschen sind sterblich als Konsequenz. Normalerweise geht das nicht. Normalerweise kann man nicht vom Speziellen aufs Allgemeine schließen, aber wir machen es trotzdem als Menschen, indem wir Kategorien bilden und so weiter und so fort. Und Pei Wang sagt, er hat hier einen Ansatz gefunden, um Induktion machen zu können.
Yeah, in my system, I can say yes. Why? Because I'm not talking about all the birds in the world. I'm talking about the birds I know. Okay, so basically this conclusion say I have evidence to believe that conclusion. So, but next slide. But the
Also wenn man heute wieder anfängt auf diese Methode, das ist ein sehr kritischer Punkt. Aber es ist a very critical point, your induction rule.
Oh, he stresses the importance of doing induction.
But this slide say that what if you have, you see, inductive conclusion, each conclusion, the confidence level is relatively low because each time you're checking one piece of evidence, or at most one piece of evidence. But this revision rule will allow the result to accumulate. So you see that in this example, it basically say that according to some evidence, bird can swim. According to some other evidence, bird cannot. Overall, what you can say? Okay, so here you see evidence actually get accumulated, and the result is a compromise with the correspond to the amount of evidence altogether.
Hier sehen wir die Revisionsregel, die wird verwendet, um die eigenen Glaubenshaltungen abzudaten, wenn es neue oder vielleicht auch widersprüchliche Informationen gibt. Und hier kann ich, wenn aus verschiedenen Quellen zweimal dieselbe Schlussfolgerung entstanden ist, dann kann ich die zusammenbringen zu einer neuen kombinierten Schlussfolgerung. Genau.
Also, you can see this work can actually be extended, not only limited to abstract concepts, it can also be extended to sensory motor because we are talking about general intelligence, of course. So we also can, in this concept network, we can have mental image, we can have all kind of perceptive results from different channels, we can have operations involved and so on. And all of them can be handled by the same logic.
Er sagt, dass in dem Konzeptnetzwerk nicht nur Identifier für Begriffe enthalten sein können, sondern auch kompliziertere Repräsentationen, auch sensorische Repräsentationen, Bilder, Audio, was man sich so vorstellen kann.
So in summary, of course, I'm making a lot of claim without argument because I have insufficient resource, right? So in summary, this is the last slide. What we have been doing can be seen as three things altogether. One is a new theory about what intelligence is. A second one is a formal model, completely formal model, which implement that theory. And finally, is a computer implementation. So whatever we have mentioned in that model have already implemented in open source project. So anyone can check the source code. Thank you very much.
Two or three questions from the audience for Pei Wang. There should be mics going around, so if you have a question, just raise your hand. Wer eine Frage hat an Pei Wang, soll einfach die Hand heben, es gehen Mikros rum.
I come back to your inductive rule, because as you know, in classical logic, as Frommer already has said, induction is forbidden. We have the work of the famous philosopher Karl Popper from the Vienna Circle, who has worked all his lifetime against induction. So when I look at your model, I think secretly it is also a critique of induction. It's not just a confirmation. Or is it a complete confirmation of the possibility of induction, or also a little bit critical?
Yeah, thanks for the comment. In general, I fully agree. Induction is very critical. Actually, this is the beginning of my project, the whole project. So I spent quite some time to think about how to handle induction. And this is basically, the final conclusion is I decided to accept the conclusion of David Hume. Say, you cannot guarantee your prediction will be true. But on the other hand, I don't want to go to the other extreme, say anything goes. Clearly, I need a new foundation for rationality. So the one I found is to use adaptation. So it's basically to justify it according to the past, not according to the future. We don't know the future. But you can still justify it according to the past.
I like very much your truth function, because normally in logic we have the famous truth tables. But I think what you achieved is a shift from a truth function in the age of data. In the world of data, it's a very perfect measuring. The measuring of evidence and confidence is a very good method in the age of data to establish truth functions. My question to Mr. Frommer, is he a Bayesian in these 5 roots?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I actually have several papers to compare this with Bayesian network and Bayesianism in general. There's some similarity, of course, but there's some key difference. For example, I do not assume my belief system is a consistent probability distribution. You don't have consistency. But Bayesian, you have to have consistency.
Thank you.
So my question is, you have these inference rules, and you apply them sequentially. So you take 2 pieces of evidence, you combine that with the inference rule. But if you initially start with all the prior information that you have, in which order do you apply your inference rules?
Yeah, that's another big topic, which is directly related to another thing I completely omitted in the discussion, that is, since you don't have the time to think about all evidence, which part you want to think about, okay? You never have the time to go through the whole network. No one can, especially when you have, say, millions of concepts in your mind, okay? So the basic solution is very simple, is to prioritize your task, prioritize your belief, prioritize everything, and you use your limited attention only on the one you think to be the most crucial and important and relevant at the moment. So to go back to your question, I never try to exhaustively use all evidence. I will just pick the one that happened to be evaluated to be the most relevant or important. So one consequence, again, is related to inconsistency. Some logician or mathematician is not going to like this work because if you take different paths, you get different conclusion. Truth value can change. Also, the system's belief can conflict with each other, which is all, to me, inevitable If you don't have sufficient knowledge and resource, that's the price you pay.
Yeah, thank you for your talk. I know you're quitting I'm not sure I'm allowed to call it algorithm, and when you don't have the time. But how does it scale in the application if you not have such a simple one? When you try to explain everything, do you have a kind of complexity how this algorithm works, or how does it scale?
Also that's a long story. First, there is no algorithm at the problem-solving level because of the nature I just mentioned. For example, you give me the same question at different time. The processing path, the result, the time consumed can all be different. Depend on, for example, when the system is busy with a lot of things. That's one scenario. When the system is idle, have nothing better to think about, that's a completely different scenario. So there is no problem level computational complexity concept at all. So you cannot talk about whether it's exponential or polynomial, and those concepts doesn't exist at that level of analysis anymore. But on the other hand, of course, you still need to have some measurement about performance. Currently, we don't have a mature technology or metrics for that. We have tried several things. The only thing we can say is, so far, it seems to be working fine. For example, with like this Cisco project, it's already a lot of information. We don't use any supercomputer, it's just ordinary computer. The good thing about this solution is, it go back to the concept that there is no fixed computational complexity. It's the other way around. How much resource you give me, I will use all of them. Okay? I don't have more, I will not think more than what I can afford. Of course, you will sacrifice the quality of the solution, that's for sure.
So maybe a last question to bring this back to artificial general intelligence and also to double down on the scaling. You say you don't believe in true superintelligence that just explodes. But if we just increase the computational power of your system, can't we just scale it infinitely, or which problems do we then end up in that prevent this to become a superintelligence?
That's another interesting point of my working definition, which make it different from the mainstream definition. The mainstream definition basically measure intelligence by problem-solving capability, how much problem you can solve. The more you can solve, the more intelligent you are. What my definition actually gave, if you check the detail, you'll see, is actually talking about a meta-level capability. It's not problem-solving capability at all. For example, NARS at the very beginning is just like a human baby. It cannot really solve anything. It's very stupid. The memory is blank. Okay, you need to put things into it. Also, you can see that in that 4 different curves I draw in that picture, okay, according to my definition, intelligence is not the level of the function or the value of the function, is the derivative. Okay, so traditional computation is 0 because it can be very high. This line can be high, but it doesn't increase over time. Or the system I'm working on increase over time. Yeah, infinite way, there is no bound, but the derivative is more or less a constant. So because of that interpretation, my system, as soon as it begins to learn, is going to increase its problem-solving capability, which is what I call a skills, but not its intelligence. Its intelligence is basically built in. It's basically depend on our initial design. So according to that understanding, that's why I think there's no such a thing as superintelligence. That is, the system AI's capability will increase, will go way beyond us, no problem. But the basic working principle and the mechanism will stay basically the same. There can be some small increase, but I don't believe there is something which is completely beyond our understanding about adaptation or intelligence.
Thank you for your talk. I think we can all give a big hand to Pei Wang.